I know. By the way, dude, check this shit out. Yo, tell me that shit's not tough, bro.
Yo, that shit is so tough. Wait, also, I never even thought about that spot.
I know, it's a good spot. It's a really good spot because when your arm's down, no one sees it. But if you're like that, they see it. It's really awesome. And also,
that's a great spot.
It's a really good spot, and just be prepared for the fact that it's quite painful. Holy shit. It was the most painful tattoo I've ever gotten. All right, so this is the second episode of Fireside Fellas. How you been, Charlie?
Been pretty good. Had a lot of work to do. I'm working on some cool writing stuff. Also, with NFL season starting, I'm starting to think about sports betting a little bit.
We're kind of back. I mean, you know what? One and a half months away from the start of the NBA season. I mean, you know what that means.
For me, that's when it really starts.
You know what that means for us.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it means that we really need to start thinking about our futures.
Well, actually, little do you know. Little do you know.
You've been taking a look at the futures?
Little do you know, I have like 12 futures down already.
Wait, what do you have? Because I have some stuff too. Let me play.
Okay. This is a good part. This is good.
Well, I got Portland Trailblazers over 33.5 wins.
Mm-hmm.
A while ago, which I think is like the biggest lock in the entire world. I'm absolutely positively confident in that.
All right, so here's what I got. I have Sacramento Kings. I just put a bunch of $5 futures on. I have like a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, firstly, actually, I have a $20 bet today that Carlos Alcaraz is going to beat Jannik Sinner in the U.S. Open.
You have Alcaraz over Sinner, really?
I do have Alcaraz over Sinner. I know Sinner Sinner's record against him is better this year, but I just think Alcaraz is going to take this one. I just like him.
Also, he's just been winning.
Who?
Like Alcaraz.
Yeah, but they've both just been winning is the problem.
I mean, that's true. That's actually not very insightful analysis, like in any way. But when you have two guys and like they're the only two guys who ever make it to the finals.
Well, Sinner's like minus 105 and Alcaraz is like plus 105. So bettors think Sinner's going to take it, but the value is from Alcaraz.
It starts in like 3 minutes, right? The match.
I think it starts at 2
or something.
For those wondering, it is 12:57. Okay, here we go. $5. All of these are $5. All right, Sacramento Kings under 35.5 wins. Garbage team.
Yeah,
West is so strong. All right, San Antonio Spurs over 42.5. This is like completely bold. Based off of health, but I think they can do it. Philadelphia 76ers under 43.5.
That's a line.
I know, isn't that insane?
What? No way.
For the record, this was in July, before we found out that Paul George was getting surgery.
It's under. It's still at 42.5.
That's insane. It's obvious. They're obviously like going to be garbage this year. They're always garbage because they're not healthy.
Well, also Embiid is he's going to have to retire. Like he can't play basketball anymore.
I know it's not happening. I don't know what's going on.
It's not happening.
I don't know what's going on with these lines. Under 47.5 Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry. Like Steph and Jimmy is getting older every day, and the
West is good, and that's a lot of wins.
Yeah. All right. Oklahoma City Thunder over 62.5. I think they are only going to be better.
I mean, they won 68 games last season with what? Like with Chet injured the entire
with their rookie injured the entire season.
Yeah, with Chet injured for all the games but 20 or something.
And then now all of them are older and better.
Yeah.
LA Lakers under 47.5. Lakers mania. Huh?
It's a lot of wins.
It's a lot of wins in the West. And also,
Luka's looking skinny though. In Eurobasket.
Every offseason.
Yeah, but it's not like social media posts. Like he actually looks skinny in Eurobasket.
I know, but like I don't think Luka's gonna be the problem. The problem is the rest of their team. Their roster sucks.
Who do they have
Um,
right now? Did they get Aiden? Or
yeah,
was that like
they got Ayton. They got Ayton.
Well, he's kind of.
Clippers under 46.5. I wish I could undo that one. I wish I could undo that one, but we'll see. But it's possible. It's just the West is so strong. It's possible.
Yeah, and someone's got to win.
Someone's got to win. It probably
someone's got to do it.
And last but not least, New York Knicks. My New York Knicks over 51.5.
Yeah, that's probably a good bet.
The East is a dried up bag of potatoes right now.
And also, new coach, which I think is going to be good.
Oh yeah,
because I don't think how I feel about Tibbs.
I know. And the thing is, like all these analysts who are like the Knicks firing Tibbs, like they don't know what they're doing. It's like, no, you didn't watch these games.
Yeah. They know what they're. I mean, maybe they don't know what they're doing because they should have done it like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Razor.
No hate, Tom Thibodeau, but floor raiser, ceiling lower,
ceiling capper, hard capper.
Yes. Great. Do you have any futures out right now? Oh, you have the
I
Portland one.
Yeah, I put some good, solid bread on Portland Trailblazers over 33.5 wins, which I mean that's kind of right around what they got last year, and that team is not good, but that team is not under 33 wins bet.
Yeah,
that's true. They've got a lot of really solid role players. Shaedon Sharpe is good. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in that.
I agree with you. All right, so let's get into the sports betting.
We, like all American men aged 18 to 29, dabble.
Yeah, we do, because it's fun. That's the thing. Sports betting is fun.
It's fun.
It's meant to be fun. It's designed to be fun.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be recording this episode if that was the end of the story.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about that sports betting for most of our lives and almost entirely of anyone older than us's lives, was illegal in most states. I mean,
it was functionally illegal for pretty much the entire 20th century.
Yeah. And for the majority of the 21st century until the last few years. And I think it's sort of hard, if your memory somehow only started in the last 4 years, I think you'd be shocked to know that 8 years ago, sports gambling was illegal because of how just
ubiquitous,
fucking constant it is. Guardian article I'm looking at, gambling logos and ads seen up to every 13 seconds during big sports games in the U.S. I mean,
how? Like I watch sports. Do I see like FanDuel?
Yeah, you do.
Every 13 seconds?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, this is the problem, right? Is that you cannot watch a sports game, whatever game that be, without being inundated by content from GM Grand and FanDuel and DraftKings. And I think for me, like that's why I wanted to talk about sports gambling.
Well, there seems to have been a lot of commentary in the last couple weeks about just kind of how out of control the advertising has gotten. Like in the precursor to the NFL season, and also with the baseball season too, with MLB, and also just how close the books and the leagues have gotten to one another. I mean, here I got some numbers for us on this. So, as far as the ads go, last year the sports books collectively spent $434.5 million on ads, which, if you ever watch sports, actually makes perfect sense. It's every other advertisement is LeBron James,
Jamie Foxx,
just sitting like at their TV, throwing down a couple lays, and it's always lays, and we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about parlays specifically later. But yeah, not surprising. And not only does that kind of insane amount of advertising spending bring sports gambling ads in front of, like, on the TV when you're watching a sports game, but it also, puts them in stadiums. Or I think, is it the Chicago Cubs that have, like, DraftKings, like, has, like, a restaurant or something attached to Wrigley Field? It's stuff like that, which, I mean, that's not exactly advertising, but it might as well be.
Yeah.
But then it's not just the books spending this money on ads. They also spend money, and they actually pay the leagues for licensing deals. And the leagues rake in money from this. So the NFL last year got $132 million in sponsorships from the books. And then in addition to that, $120 million in licensing their data so that the books can create more accurate lines and better steal our money.
Right.
So the closeness between the leagues and the books, financially, but also culturally a little bit, like with the advertisements, is something that is totally unprecedented.
It's totally unprecedented. And the reason it's totally unprecedented, or one of the reasons why it's totally unprecedented, is if you go back 20 years and ask any member of any league, especially baseball, but really any league, why is sports gambling illegal? It's because of the players. It's because, if you can bet on yourself to do something and you have control over it, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And
it was about the integrity of the game.
It was about the integrity of the game. And that has somehow fallen by the wayside. And you can see how that's like being like what effect that's having. Like Jonte Porter, NBA, like all these guys being investigated, some getting lifetime bans, some just like, oh, what's happening? Like MLB players, fucking Shohei Ohtani's agent or whatever.
Let's be real, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani,
I know. If he wasn't so fucking good, bro, he would have been out. Bro.
It wasn't literally the GOAT of the sport.
I mean, this is having an adverse effect on the integrity of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to be completely honest with you, I don't even think we know the half of it. I think the leagues are either unaware or intentionally, which I would not be surprised by, intentionally stuffing their heads in the ground.
Yeah.
About the sheer volume of players betting on themselves.
There's been a lot of scandals between college football, between the MLB, between the NBA, between Shohei Ohtani and his fucking translator. And, in the past, those concerns about player integrity were a very large part of the reason why sports gambling was legal. If you go back and we can go into the history of the legality of sports betting just very quickly. So there's the famous 1919 Black Sox scandal where, the Black Sox, I think they throw the World Series basically, and as a way to make money from these mobster bookies. And at that
the World Series, by the way,
this is the World Series,
the most important thing of baseball, and they throw it for money, just to make it clear that there's no level to which players will not do something to make money. Okay.
Also, they were getting paid something like $8,000 a year, and they got paid like $10K, maybe a game, either $10K for the series or like $10K a game. To throw this World Series. So it's not when the money is there, and with the books, the money is always there. Mm-hmm. These types of things. So at the time, sports gambling was kind of the purview of the states, and it was illegal in every state. And the the leagues, first and foremost, the MLB, were extremely anti-sports gambling, and it was a hard line. You know, if you were caught up in some type of gambling scandal, lifetime ban from the sport. And you see that, you know, like it happened with Pete Rose, for example. He wasn't even a player. I mean, I think he was a coach.
Mhm.
And I think he's now going to be eligible for the Hall of Fame, which like is kind of like funny and in keeping with everything we're talking about. But he had a lifetime ban from the sport, and he was banned from the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then in the 1950s, Nevada legalized it, or maybe 1949 or something. But then Congress put a tax on sports gambling until like the 80s. That basically made it not profitable to run a book. So there still wasn't really any sports gambling, even in Nevada. And then finally, there was a little bit of momentum in the late 80s, early 90s, once this tax had been taken away, for like California and some other states to legalize sports gambling. And you know who mobilized against it? The leagues. The leagues mobilized against it. And it culminated in the passage of this 1992 act that it's called the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. That basically it banned sports gambling from expanding beyond Nevada, pretty much. And it was Senator Bill Bradley, a former NBA player, who like said the real sure about. And sports gambling was illegal from 92 until 2018, when the Supreme Court overturned it. And this time, when there was a legal challenge to the legality, you know, a legal challenge to this law that's banned sports gambling, the leagues were incredibly supportive of the challenge. And they kind of had flipped sides between the 90s and between 2018 to be on the side of sports gambling because they saw it rightfully as a money-making opportunity. And it makes me kind of wonder, like, what? That's not that much time. No. You know, sports gambling was a taboo from the Black Sox scandal in 1919 through the 90s. You know, what happened? Like, I feel like I don't quite understand, like, culturally, what happened.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're going to end up getting outside of the purview of sports gambling a little bit here. But I think this is sort of, to me, this is like part of the pattern of like what you're seeing with like stocks and like the stock market and companies as well, where it's like short-term profit, aka stock price, is superseding long-term growth. And yeah. I think that this has a lot to do with it, because at the end of the day, sports gambling is going to rake in a lot of money. It is raking in a lot of money for these leagues and these companies right now.
Yeah.
But already, it has only been like 3 years or 4 years of legalized nationwide sports betting, nationwide, most states. People are getting sick and tired of it. And it's really, really goddamn annoying seeing Jamie Foxx in the MGM ad every minute. It's actually really annoying. And I think that, you know, it's gonna have an effect. I think it probably already is having an effect. I mean, look, people are always gonna watch the Super Bowl. It's gonna happen. But I think it's having a bigger effect on smaller, less important games. And also, you know, people care about the integrity of the leagues. Like, if the NBA doesn't have integrity amongst its players, like, I'm less interested in watching it.
You need to be able to trust like the competition of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I think the leagues. I mean, I don't know this, but if I had to guess, I think the leagues were basically put into a position where they were forced to do this, because once it was legalized, like, it was happening.
But they were pushing for the court case that allowed it to be legalized. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really like what you're saying about like short-term profits over like the long-term kind of over like long-term sustainability. I think the leagues are making a devil's bargain here.
I agree.
We're going to make a fuck shit load of money right now, but in the long term, you know, the kind of the integrity of the game and is the reputation of the game could take a little bit of a beating.
I
And
mean,
the sport,
yeah,
for the sake of the sport, is going to be eroded by this over time.
100%. Like, as a fan, on the one hand, I'm like frustrated with the way that the games are being dominated by sports betting. And on the other hand, it is fun to sports bet. Like, I
Yeah,
do it. We
yeah,
started off
me
the
too.
podcast episode by going down the list of a dozen futures I put out. Like, clearly, I'm not like taking a moral high ground here of like sports gambling is terrible. And so this sort of leads into what I think is like sort of the most interesting part of all of this, which is like, okay, we've talked about the league side of things, right? Where it's like, why are the leagues doing this? Well, they're doing it because they can make money, but it's like messing up the integrity of the league. Okay, that's just one half of it. The other half, and arguably bigger than half, is like, okay, the like citizens of America side of this. You did some lovely lovely work in finding out that in 2024, this is insane, Americans wagered nearly $150 billion on sports.
An insane amount to wager in 1 year on sports.
I mean, that's a lot of money. And I think, that's just getting higher and higher and higher. And I think the percent of Americans who are like okay with sports gambling is going to grow because of that. And so to me, I choose to sports gamble, even though I think it's sort of bad. And so what I'm curious about is like what that conundrum is. And I have a thought about that, but say what you were going to say first.
Well, I do kind of think that the like philosophical like underpinnings of both like the decision to sports gamble and also the reason why it was legalized are like in a way a little similar. Like there's kind of like a lot of there's kind of been a big push towards like social libertarianism. Mm-hmm. A lot of the country, and in a lot of ways that's been really good, where it's like, okay, like let's not legislate morality in the sense of like let's not ban gay marriage, and that's like a wonderful thing. That's like that's the way it should be. Or well, the abortion argument is not great here, considering that actually the Supreme Court did overturn the nationwide legality of abortion. But the very popular pro-choice argument is kind of, it's kind of a similar. It's a lot of it is like public health, but it's also a similar like, hey, it's like my body, my choice. Like it's like a personal, individual decision.
Right.
But that also extends into the kind of increasing popularity of positions like legalizing drugs, or I would argue legalizing sports gambling, where it's like, hey, this is not like, is sports gambling the world's best thing? Is it like great for society that like we have a lot of sports gambling? No, I would say definitely not. But also there's kind of like a belief that it's not really like the state's job to intervene. It's our job to like bet responsibly. Right. And I think that line of thinking kind of gives you like, I don't know, the moral space to like places a bet and not think twice about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas in the past, you'd like think that God would like strike you down if you're like Catholic.
Yeah. So I think that is like in a vacuum, and I think you are going to agree with what I'm about to say. In a vacuum argument, yes. However, like there's a notable increase in bankruptcies in the sports that have allowed sports gambling. The thing is, our society runs on money. Our world runs on money. And if you are betting it away, and you most likely are, because more likely than not, you are not going to win your bet, that's dangerous. And it is the government's job to protect its citizens. So the question is, there's really two poles. There's two pulls, two forces. On the one hand, I should have the right as an American to bet on LeBron James announcing his retirement this year.
It's my God-given
It's
right.
my fucking right.
My constitutional right.
And on the other hand, the government should probably step in to stop me from like ruining my life.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the question, but I think this is another, area where I think like having an opinion on one of those sides is wrong, and you have to like be somewhere in the middle. So
Yeah.
what I really think I want to focus on this, or what I find the most like important thing to think about is not about the legality of sports gambling. But think about it like this. Someone losing a sports bet means that someone else is winning. And the person who's winning are these private companies whose goal it is to deliver money to their shareholders.
Yeah.
DraftKings a few quarters ago basically had this call where they were like, the CEO or whatever was like, hey, like, sort of in jargon, basically said, we didn't do well this quarter because the fans made too much money. And like, they're trying to figure out how to deal with that and like, how to make it so normal people win less money.
Make worse lines.
The problem, in my opinion, is not whether to legalize sports gambling or not. The problem is who controls it.
Yeah.
Right? Currently, it's like these really, really private, wealthy companies versus the American populace. Apparently, $150 billion of the American populace.
Yeah.
So the case that I want to bring up is Finland. Okay. Here's the deal of what happens in Finland. Norway. Basically, Norway has a very, very strict paternalistic model of sports gambling. They have an operator called Norsk Tipping. It is 100% state-owned. It has exclusive rights to sports betting, lotteries, keno, and online casino games.
Yeah, that's socialism, though.
Well,
Saying.
let me finish. No private betting operators are allowed to operate in Norway. So yeah, I guess that is socialism. It is completely state-run. It is a centralized app. If you want to bet on sports, you have to do it through the Norsk Tipping app or website. Every user must verify their identity with their national ID. There's a cap on how much you can deposit per day, week, and month. There's forced cool-off periods after sustained play. It shows your total losses and time spent on gambling at all points. And the surpluses of the profit made by the government go to sports, culture, and charitable causes. It is an intentionally paternalistic model because it frames gambling as a public health risk. Mandatory loss limits are non-negotiable. So if you're wealthier and you want to gamble more, you can't. There's very, very restrictive ad restrictions and no foreign operators. Thoughts?
I mean, I do, as two people who do dabble in a little sports gambling.
Yeah.
Like, would that be like, let's say like you're on like, I don't know, you're on a heater, or like you want like, you want to bet on like Anthony Edwards second half points, but you've already placed a bunch of Anthony Edwards, bets like before the game.
Yeah.
Would that be like kind of annoying? Sure. If there was like a maximum number of bets. So, and so, Americans don't really like that, and Americans don't really like a paternalistic state. We're very uncomfortable with it. But I think nevertheless, I think it's a very good idea, because I think that you need to remember the alternative, which is right now a like incredibly unregulated environment for sports gambling that creates a lot of problems. And we should establish what those problems are. You mentioned increased bankruptcies. We got the numbers for this. In states that legalized sports gambling, there was a 28% increase in bankruptcies versus states that didn't. Now 22% of all Americans, including half of men, age 18 to 49 have an active online sports betting account. And while many of those people will be able to gamble responsibly, the ones who aren't able to gamble responsibly are going to do serious permanent damage to their lives.
Yeah.
So it's in Connecticut, this is a crazy stat, 2% of people account for 51% of sports betting profits. Because these are people with a severe gambling addiction. Mm-hmm. And as it currently stands, you know, there aren't any kind of meaningful limits as to how much money they can deposit into their account, as to how often they can deposit money into their account. I actually don't know the rules about whether or not you can use a credit card to deposit money in your account. I'm assuming you can.
You can.
You can?
You can.
So, I mean, I actually thought that, like, at least, like, we would prevent that, but...
You can.
Whatever. Really, the only meaningful regulation we have is, like, where you are. Like, if you're in Connecticut, you can gamble. If you're in Rhode Island, you can't gamble. And, like, that's pretty much all we have.
And you have to be of age.
Yeah. So, you know, this one study, it was a report from Jonah Research, said that it's possible that more than 90% of all sports betting revenue is generated by people with some level of a gambling problem. So when it is kind of more accurate, in my opinion, to think of this as less of like a paternalistic state and like a nanny state, and, you know, kind of like a matter of like freedom, and more of like a matter of public health.
Yeah.
You know, these are people unable to control their gambling habits. And like with other issues of public health, the state has, we acknowledge that the state has some type of right and some type of responsibility to come in and, you know, help manage the issue.
I mean, this is a really big debate, I think, going on the left in particular in terms of drug use, which is like, I think especially in New York, but really everywhere, you know, big blue cities, it's like, should the city, New York, LA, whatever it be, take the people who have been like screwed by life, and it's not their fault, but they've been screwed by life, and they're just doing fentanyl on the street every single day, or doing whatever drug it is. Like, should we force them into rehabilitation programs? Or is it their right as a human on this earth to just do drugs on the street all day? I mean, you know, that's like a really intense example, which is like not every homeless person, just to be very clear. But, you know, this is what the argument is. And,
yeah,
you know, if you ask, this is gonna be annoying. If you ask the philosopher, John Stuart Mill, he says, on liberty, 1859, I know. The core idea is that individuals should be free to act however they wish unless their actions harm others, right? So in gambling, it's like if I'm harming myself, government intervention is unjustified. But if my losses harm other people, my family, societal costs, whatever, then the government should come in. In that model, which I think, you know, a libertarian would love, like, maybe we don't take the people on the street. And, you know, maybe we let people gamble their savings away. But I'm not sure that I think that that's the way that we should be looking at life.
Logically, you have to understand the extreme nature of that position.
Yeah.
That's not, you know, I don't think that you have like a civil right to gamble your savings away. I think, like, you know, is sports gambling fun? Should sports gambling be legal? Yeah, I mean, I do think that it should probably be legal in some way. But the fact that, like, I can go and put all my savings into my FanDuel account and then max out my line of credit and, you know, put that into my fucking FanDuel account and, like, you know, just like back to back, like, you know, one deposit after another deposit after another deposit, trying to like chase my losses, no cool down periods, no regulations when it comes to credit. That that is the lack of rules around that, and the fact that the books allow that to happen is clearly designed for the books to profit off of people who, like, either in the heat of the moment are like chasing losses, or people with like a severe gambling addiction.
Exactly.
And that is wrong. To me, that's wrong. And that kind of like both like the public health issue, the public health side of that, and kind of the moral side of that tells me like some level of like regulation and government intervention is perfectly reasonable here.
I agree. And I think
I do think
necessary.
That the like forced rehabilitation for like homeless drug users is actually a pretty it's a totally solid example, because they both are public health issues, drug addiction and gambling addiction.
Exactly.
And I think like I don't think that we should allow people who are clearly out of control and hurting themselves and throwing their lives away to like continue doing that out of kind of some, like, to me, like, false sense of freedom. Like, that freedom, that's not what freedom means.
Yeah. Are you more free if you have all your savings and are not allowed to gamble, or you are allowed to gamble and you have nothing?
Yeah.
It makes you more free.
Or are you free if, like, all of a sudden you're in crippling credit card debt and, like, that you can never get out of, and you're, like, facing bankruptcy lawsuits because, like, you deposited $8,000 into DraftKings, lost it all, and then they sent you a bunch of follow-up emails because, like, their algorithm recognized you as a problem gambler and had you submit a fucking shitload more money? Like, no, you aren't, actually.
So that leads me very well into the Safe Bet Act. I want to ask you if you think it's enough. I think we both sort of agree something is necessary. I think you could make the argument that the Norway model is too restrictive. I personally support it, and I think it could be really good. I think the specifics matter. I like the idea of gambling being state-run, because at the end of the day, I don't think we should be counterbalancing the profits of people versus corporations. Like, that's not a good idea, in my opinion. I
think it's just, generally speaking, not a great idea to align gambling addiction with the profit motive. Like, that doesn't feel...
Vices and profits should not be intertwined.
Yeah, like that's... So, yeah.
The Safe Bet Act, which was introduced by a couple of House members, has been, it's been going in and out. It's been around for a few years. It's maybe gaining traction, but I don't think it's like anywhere close to being passed, and probably won't be passed anytime soon, if I had to guess. But let me really quick one down. Basically, nationwide, there's a prohibition on sports betting. This is what it's going to do. However, then specific companies like DraftKings or whatever can get an approved application from the Department of Justice for a sports betting program. And they have to do that through the state. So the states with existing sports betting programs have to come into that.
Sports gambling, correct me if I'm wrong, is still the legal purview of the states.
Exactly.
The states need to get permission from the Attorney General, get like a waiver, like get like their regulatory framework approved by the Attorney General.
Exactly. Right? And it has to be renewed every 3 years. Okay, that's the nonsense. Here's the real stuff. And this is how about we go through every single one and you say like good, bad, or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Advertising. Hold on. Advertising prohibits sports betting broadcast advertising between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Yeah. I do think that the advertising has gotten so out of control, and it's really annoying. And do I think that is a valid reason to regulate, the advertising of sports betting? I actually don't. I think it would be like nice that I have to see less sports betting ads. But I do think a valid reason is that, just like how we don't allow cigarette companies to
Yeah.
Advertise like smoking, advertise something that is very addictive and harmful to your health. We wouldn't allow sports books to advertise the books. It's something that if you really want to do, you go and seek out on your own. But we don't allow, we don't allow these potentially harmful products, including sports gambling, to kind of like be pushed onto us, or also like be seen by minors who are seeing all these advertisements and
young men.
I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I was going to move on to the next one.
Yeah. What's the next one?
Okay. Prohibits sports betting advertising during live sporting events.
Wait, isn't that the one we just did?
No, the one we just did is 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. But I think this is like if it's a sporting event, 10 p.m.
Yeah. I mean, like, sure. I think a lot of the same reasons, for the previous one, will work for this. You want people who are going to sports gamble. You are going to sports gamble.
Yeah. People know it exists. Like, it doesn't need to be advertised.
Yeah.
Prohibits sports betting advertisements designed to induce gambling with bonus, no sweat, bonus bets, or boosts or similar promotions. This one I think is like really key in that it gets at the human psychology of parlays, and it gets at the human psychology of like, I put less money down and I put $5 down and I can make $400 because of this bonus bet and because of this boost or whatever. Like, that is really what gets, I think, a lot of people fucked.
Yeah. Also, a lot of these like promos and advertisements are like kind of deceptive. Where, I mean, some like when I first signed up for one of the books, I got like, it was like the promo was like, deposit $5 and get $200 in free bets or whatever. Something like that. And I did, and I won like one parlay with my free bets, and all of a sudden, like, 2 months later, I had lost, way more money than the original $200 that was given to me in free bets. Because like I had won one parlay and I was like hyped and like, wanted to do it more. Also, so like, I mean, that's like a pretty standard and like, honestly, relatively like tame example. But there are other examples of these promos just being impossible to get, where like you get like, oh, it's like $1,000 in like no sweat bets, like $1,000 in like free play or whatever. But like to get the $1,000, you need to like place a ridiculous $21,000 in bets just to get the promo,
right. Which is ridiculous to you and me, but someone will do that.
And first of all, people will do that, but also people are going to see the $1,000 in free play. They're going to make an account. They're going to have an account with the book based on the idea that they have $1,000 in free play, and then they're not going to get that money. And all of a sudden, they have an account with the book. You got them to open up this account under false pretenses, and that doesn't feel right.
Agreed. Okay. I'm going to sort of run through all of the affordability ones together, just to speed it up a little bit, and we'll talk about it. Okay. Prohibits operators from accepting more than 5 deposits from a customer in a 24-hour period. Prohibits operators from accepting deposits via credit card.
Very important.
Requires operators to conduct affordability checks on customers before accepting wagers. Requires operators to check National Clearinghouse for self-exclusion before allowing customers to place bets. And then there's AI stuff. So it's like prohibits the use of AI to track habits, prohibits the use of AI to create gambling products, micro bets, that kind of thing, which for the record, it currently is doing. To me, all those are great. The fact that you can deposit via credit card is fucking insane.
Crazy. It is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think all of that sounds good. I'm sure that the devil will be in the details, like we're like doing these like affordability safeguards and stuff. Like, I don't love the idea of FanDuel, who already like handles a huge amount of data and does like a huge amount of data processing, and like has like all these like data licensing deals, would like be able to like see into my bank account or something.
Mhm.
So you're gonna have to make sure that like the privacy parts of this are addressed. But yeah, I generally speaking think that's a good idea. I like the 5 deposits in 24 hours piece of this. Prevents people from like chasing their losses too much, which is how people can really get in trouble. The credit cards part is super important. Just kind of common sense stuff. Like you'll still be able to like put a little cheddar on like the NBA, or on like or on like the NFL on a Sunday. Like
But you just can't ruin your life.
You just can't ruin your life. Yeah.
The thing is, so this is the thing.
That's the bar. It's really high, actually.
Yeah. The problem is, like, this is not going to pass, and I don't even think it's like that great. It's okay.
How many sponsors does it have?
I don't know.
I'd actually be curious to find out, and I'd also be curious to know if there's any Republican co-sponsors, because it's all Democrats right now who are supporting the bill, right? Or at least like the main two, between like Richard Blumenthal in the Senate and the main House guy are like Democrats.
Exactly. There are apparently 0 on both the Senate and the House bill.
What? There's only the original sponsors, no co-sponsors.
That's what this says.
Well,
I don't know if that's true.
I think you're probably accurate in saying that this bill is not going to go anywhere then.
Yeah, I think it's also says that because this is like the newest version of it, of 2025, so probably people haven't had time to read it yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know I'm on Congress.gov. 0 co-sponsors. And it's in committees, but it's stuck. It's been there since March.
Congress doesn't work anymore, so
yeah.
Like it doesn't.
Here's the deal. The Safe Bet Act, it's common sense. It should be passed. I don't think, to me, it satisfies my problem with sports betting, which is that we have a situation in which it is in the interest of the people who run sports betting to make sure that Americans get screwed more. Yeah. And this bill does not change that. Like, that's what I find unsatisfying about it. Like, yes, this is good, this is great, this is helpful. And as much as people don't like socialism, like, and sure, like the Norway's model is socialist in effect. What it does is it fixes that problem. It fixes the problem that the government has no interest in bankrupting more of its citizens. In fact, it has the opposite interest. And so it makes sense for gambling to be run by the government. For the record, I think you could take that further and say it would make sense for a lot of other vices to be run by the government. There's a reason that, dispensaries, for example, weed, they're not run by the government, but they have so much goddamn government oversight. Yeah. It's because at the end of the day, weed is a vice. I think there's a lot of countries where alcohol is only able to be sold by the government. I think that would make a lot of sense. Yeah. I think in America we have a lot of problems with the way that vices and things that are bad for us are controlled by companies whose only goal is to make money off of us.
Yeah. No, and also when you read that in the proportion of Connecticut gambling revenue from about 2% of people with a severe gambling addiction accounts for 51% of sports betting revenue, or researchers found that over 70% of all legal gambling revenue in Connecticut is generated by fewer than 7% of residents. It's what becomes pretty abundantly clear is that the economic model for these companies is to make people addicted.
Yeah.
They make money from people who are addicted to gambling. People like you or I who are just like throwing $10 on like, you know, whether or not the Phoenix Suns are going to be bad or whether they're going to be absolute dog shit is like totally different than like, you know.
I liked how you didn't even include good.
Yeah. I mean, that's the question I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah,
for my own.
it's a good question. For the record, it's absolute dog shit.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hit the under, but, you know, this isn't the best time to talk about that, but maybe we can come back to, you know, later. But no, like, I think that the prime focus of regulation, and this is something I think that the Safe Bet Act does very well, is you need to get at the heart of the kind of the incredibly corrupt incentive structure that currently exists for these sports books, which is that, you know, they make money by getting people with gambling addictions to gamble more. Yeah. Or they make money by getting people who don't have gambling addictions to then have gambling addictions.
Yeah.
Though, like, you don't need to ban sports betting, but you do need to ban books from being able to ruin people's lives. Because right now, from the economic data that we're seeing, from, you know, increased bankruptcies, you know, to there's been some studies that have found like a statistical correlation between legalized sports gambling and lower credit ratings. It's showing that there are, in fact, economic harms, and you know, people are kind of seeing the consequences of problem gambling, and in a way that like we can regulate.
Yeah. National Council on Problem Gambling.
Mm-hmm.
7 to 11 million U.S. adults experience low to high criteria for severe gambling problem. I mean, 13% show signs of compulsive gambling, 16% gambling disorder. Like, you can't leave this unregulated. You just can't.
Worth noting that, you know, those numbers represent an increase from years past when sports gambling wasn't legal. Because after the legalization of sports gambling, a lot of states have states have these gambling addiction like helplines.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of data that has shown that calls to those helplines have absolutely gone ballistic since sports gambling has become legal. There's way more people calling them, which indicates way more people having gambling addictions than previously.
Right. And if you don't believe the part you just said about, you know, the increases and the potential decreases if we do legislate this, you know, people are used to it now. When America decided to ban smoking basically in every indoor area and ban the advertisement of cigarettes and put all of these, you know, danger warnings or whatever, less people smoked. If you look at the broad statistics of smoking nicotine and smoking cigarettes, cigarette smoking is so far below what it used to be. It's because when you regulate things, people understand why. Like, Americans, whether you think they're smart or not, they understand. They understand, okay? They're not, like, completely stupid. Like, people will respond.
Yeah. No, exactly. And, you know, the one type of regulatory intervention that we haven't talked about yet, that I've seen a little bit of conversation about that would go further than the Safe Gambling Act, is whether or not you allow these mobile sports betting apps and you allow sports betting to happen on your phone. Because when you can just open your phone and place a bet just like that, you know, all of a sudden sports gambling isn't like, oh, like we're going to go to the casino and like bet on like fucking, you know, Chiefs Lions and, you know, like, oh, it's going to, you know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Like it turns from an event and turns from like something that you do to just like something that is so quick and easy that like you don't even have to think about it. It's like, oh, tonight, whatever, like we'll just like place a couple bets. You know, it's no longer like an event and it allows you to gamble just a lot easier when you can.
Right. And if your argument is that sports gambling should be legal because it's fun, then the event of gambling on a sport should in itself be an event. It shouldn't just be a click. It should
it can be the thing that's emphasized.
Exactly. Like watching basketball, for example, this is a random example. Watching basketball isn't fun because you can watch an entire game in a second. It's fun because you sit down with your friends for 2 hours, you look and you watch the game. No one would watch basketball if you watched a time-lapse video of a game in 5 seconds, right? Like, it's fun. Okay, so if it's fun, let's extend that experience and let's actually make it fun. Like,
there can be like brick and mortar like sports bars. You know, like what if like instead of being able to place a bunch of bets on FanDuel, then you would have to like go to like Buffalo Wild Wings with your boys. And you can like place some bets there.
You can only place sports bets in Buffalo Wild Wings.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, honestly, that's pretty fun. You go to Buffalo Wild Wings. You have like a beer, you have some wings, you watch the games, you play some bets, and like it's not like you're sitting at home by yourself, like gambling on a game. It's like, like this is like. It's like, oh, if we want to gamble on something, it actually needs to be like an activity that we go and do.
Yeah.
And I think that would like allow for sports gambling to like still be an option for people who want to do it. And like, it's not so kind of, it would still be legal, of course, but it would kind of prevent the kind of like dopamine cycle of like constantly placing bets and watching them and tailing your losses and like things like that get people into trouble when they're just kind of like gambling on their phone with no real accountability.
I completely agree. It's clear, I think, to both of us that like the way that things currently are, I mean, the Safe Bet Act, it's a good bill. It has 0 co-sponsors. Like, it is clear that just because it is a good common sense bill does not mean that it is going to get passed. And I think, it would be hard to make the argument that it is likely that the government does anything soon about sports gambling and the way that it is just like really fucking over people's lives. So, what now?
Well, the fact that when the federal government is unable to step in, I think that still means that action can be taken at the state level.
Right.
And these states have already passed bills to legalize sports gambling. They can also pass some bills to create more stringent regulations to kind of prevent, and to address the issues that we've been talking about in this episode. So I do think that like just because Congress is unable to pass a law doesn't leave politicians off the hook. It just kind of sends, it's going to send, I mean, it's obviously ridiculous that Congress is not going to be able to like get their shit together and like pass what is an extremely common sense piece of legislation, I think, for everyone. But it does mean that, we can like direct political energy to the states because the states also have the ability to address this.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note, it's going to be really hard for Congress or for the states to pass anything if the sports leagues continue to kind of bear hug the books as closely as they are. There needs to be a change in the leagues.
I agree. I mean, I think that they have moved into this model of all right, like let's make money, and let's be clear, the leagues are making a lot of
Hand
money.
over fist.
I mean, the NBA is so profitable right now. It's unbelievable. And that's just the NBA. And to be honest with you, I think they might be forced into it because I think, obviously this Kawhi Leonard thing has nothing to do with sports gambling. But I think, I think we're already seeing it. And I think we're going to see an increase in fraud, an increase in sports gambling related tanking.
It creates so many opportunities.
And you just can't assume people aren't going to take those opportunities.
Yeah.
And so if I had to guess, or it is my hope at the very least that leagues are going to be forced into a position of having to deal with it, because I can't count on Adam Silver taking the moral stance that sports gambling is bad for the NBA. I think it's bad for the NBA morally. I also think it's bad for the NBA because it's going to lead to bad play. And at the end of the day, I think I have to hope that these league execs are going to realize that like unfair play long term is not healthy for growth.
Yeah.
And
also, there's something so beautiful about sports. It's really one of the last bastions of like American culture that everyone can kind of still, enjoy. And that is just kind of, that is still kind of like so central to like a national identity that like is increasingly frayed. And I think that there's like there's just like some inherent value that you can't quantify and that is kind of like hard to articulate. And
right.
Like just pure, like just like pure fucking hoops. There's like just something beautiful about sports and about just like the integrity of the game and the necessity for the game to stay honest. And I think that because of that, these leagues, not that they have like a responsibility to be like pushing for like sports gambling to be illegal, but I do think that like their posture towards sports gambling for both like the integrity of the game and for like the long-term health of sports, and just because sports are sports, if that makes any sense, it should be one of like at the very least like a little suspicion, a little like, oh, like we don't trust y'all,
Yeah, at the very least it shouldn't be a bear hug, it should be a side hug.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like, how can we work together to make this NFL season make what is, I'm sure, to be just outrageous mountains of cash. So much money.
All right, I think that's all for me on this one. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's all for me. I mean, there's so much to talk about with this, but
there's so much to talk about, so much we could have talked about. But I'm sure this won't be the last time, and I think we might need to revisit this one after we see what happens with this NFL and NBA season. I think it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's just more and more athletes who are getting caught up in these gambling scandals.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see even more. Guys, thank you for listening. Please give us a like and a rating and a comment on all platforms wherever you're listening. Follow our Instagram at Fireside Fellas Pod, the YouTube Fireside Fellas Podcast, TikTok Fireside Fellas Pod, Fireside Fellas Pod everywhere you need us. And we'll be back in a week to discuss the next topic. Sounds good to you?
Absolutely.
All right. Bang.